right, welcome to the second installment of Florida State Simicast. I wanted to go over the top 10 players returning to FSU this fall. So, starting it off real quick, number 10, Deondre Francois, the 6'1", 214-pound redshirt freshman. I realize he hasn't taken college snap, but I think he has top 10 type potential. The spring game, he showed out, made a couple mistakes, but overall you could see the physical traits he had. You could see the smash route, the post, the loft on the touchdown throw to the corner of the end zone. He can make all the throws. And it also doesn't hurt that when in trouble, he can scramble, as he did in the spring game when he eluded a sack and ran for 25 yards. I really think the sky's the limit for this kid. There's going to be some ups and downs, of course, but I think he could be one of the top 10 players on this team. Moving to number 9, we have Travis Rudolph. Rudolph finished the year with 59 catches for 916 yards, which is good for a 15.5-yard average. Rudolph just needs to show consistency. Those numbers I just mentioned were probably accumulated in 3 to 4 games, which means he pretty much disappeared in the other 8 to 9 games. So he needs to show consistency week to week. He's a 5-star guy. This is his junior season now. This is his make your money season, even though I don't think he'll declare. But if he wants to, he better show out. So he should be motivated to have a great year. And Jimbo had nothing but nice things to say about him during spring camp. Moving to number 8, we have Derrick Nottie. Nice. Derrick Nottie, the 6'1", 303 junior defensive tackle. He had 45 tackles and just 2 sacks on the season. But he doesn't really show up on the stat sheet because he usually is just clogging the middle and creating penetration. So he may not get the 10 sacks or what have you, but he caused havoc. And this will be his second year as a full-time starter. And I think he's going to be the best defensive tackle FSU has on this roster. So I expect him to make a very big impact. Moving to number 7, we have Derek Hoskins. 6'2", 245-pound redshirt junior, finished with 52 tackles and 6.5 tackles for loss. He had been on the roster, obviously, as a redshirt junior for quite a while. But last year, he finally got his opportunity, and he came through. He proved to be a 3-down linebacker. He could stuff the run. He could play in coverage if he has to. He really surprised me. And it's pretty much him and Thomas as the 2 linebackers anchoring that unit. I mean, other than that, there's not a ton of depth. So he's going to have to step up again. I expect him to do just that. Moving to number 6, we have Marquez White, the 6'1", 181-pound defensive back. He is pretty underrated. He didn't have a lot of eye-popping stats, 25 tackles, 3 passes defended. But the biggest reason for that is he shut down his side of the field. After a few games to the season, quarterbacks just stopped throwing to his side of the field. He's very, very good player, and he could have declared, but he chose to come back for his senior year, and thank goodness he did because it makes his team even more stacked. Moving to number 5, we have the true sophomore, Josh, going to make you sweat. 6'5", 236 pounds. I'm curious to see if he can get that weight up. Fall camp is right around the corner. So I'm sure new weights will start coming out, and a lot of these players like to tweet stuff like that. So if he can get up to like 250 or higher, it's just 14 pounds or more, but that could be a big difference. That's a lot of muscle. He finished with 41 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. I didn't expect him to even play for much of the year last year, but he played from game 1 to the end of the year. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school, had a chance to be the number 1 player in the country until he shredded his knee. But to his credit, he bounced back and played game 1. And this year, his knee is now 2 years removed from getting just totally fucked out the window. So I expect him to just be a beast at the other defensive end position. Moving on to number 4, we have Rod Johnson. 6'7", 307-pound junior offensive lineman. Clearly the best offensive lineman this team had last year. He is going into his contract year, and I expect him to put up great numbers. And unfortunately for him, he was pretty much the only guy that was consistent on the offensive line last year. It was him and then four other guys that either got hurt or just rotated because they were ineffective. So Rod Johnson's got a big rod. Moving to number 3, we have Demarcus Walker, the senior defensive end, 6'3", 273 pounds, finished with 58 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 10.5 sacks. He could have gone pro, but I think when he got his evaluation, they told him, look, maybe you go third round at the highest. Like, he's not the kind of defensive end that really stands out to NFL scouts. He doesn't have the 6'5", 6'6" frame. He doesn't have the really quick burst. But what he does have is a high motor. He's technically sound with his hands, and he's very strong. Him coming back was obviously a huge coup for this team. Moving to number 2, and I was almost tempted to put this guy number 1. Derwin James, the true sophomore, the 6'3", 220-pound safety. Yes, 6'3", 220 as a safety. He is the returning leader in tackles. He finished with 91. He had also added 4.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles to his resume. This guy is going to blow up nationally. I mean, I can already see it building in social media. He's a Thorpe Award watch list maker, if you want to call it that. And he was just all over the field last year, and especially when he started to really digest the defense, you could tell how insanely good he could be. I mean, whether it's rushing the passer, making a big hit on a receiver in the secondary, he can do it all. And I still vividly remember the way he just bitched a Florida offensive lineman, a tackle, a safety versus a tackle. He just pushes him and launches him like 3 feet in the air. The sky's the limit with this kid. He has All-American written all over him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him dominate this year. Moving to number 1, I think you know who I'm going with here. Dalvin Cook. The man, the myth, the legend in the making. The 5'11", 206-pound junior finished with 1,691 rush yards, and 19 touchdowns. And he averaged 7.4 yards a carry. Oh, just 7.4 yards a carry. No big deal. He's obviously a Heisman candidate. As this offense goes, as this team goes, will all depend on Dalvin Cook. If he can stay healthy, and if the offensive line can just show some improvement from last year and be a good or solid unit, I really think he could push for 2,000 rushing yards. I really think he could, especially if the quarterback play is improved. It'll cause defenses to play back a little as opposed to stacking the box like they did most of the year last year, which still didn't matter. He still ran wild. But I expect Dalvin Cook to have a great year, and he's the clear-cut number 1 on my top 10 list. Well, that concludes your top 10 Seminoles heading into the 2016 season. Until next time, this has been another Florida State Semicast.